There's been a long debate throughout the millennia over what actually constitutes magic. Just to briefly summarize 3,000 years of people debating this, what the debate basically boils down to is if the people that we like do it, it's a miracle. If the people we don't like do it, oh, that's magic. And you need to be very careful about that. In fact, our word magic comes into being in Greece, where they were trying to contrast their good thaumaturgy or miracle working against that weird magicia that those people in the East did. Those people that aren't part of our in group. See, they claim to work miracles, but they don't. We work miracles in our temples to the Greek gods. They're doing magic. The great Renaissance that started in the 1800s that brought magic fully back into our consciousness turned this on its head and really invited everyone to understand that if you are doing anything with the subtle energies of the world, you're practicing magic. So for those of us in the faith world, we've had to grapple with these questions, especially for those of us who are a bit Christo-pagan. Is this a miracle? Is this magic? Is magic manipulating God? What are we supposed to do here? When you turn to the Gospels, you see a passage where the disciples are unable to cast out a demon, and Jesus just does it. And in Matthew 17, we read, "Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, 'Why weren't we able to cast it out?' And he said to them, 'Because of your unbelief. For most certainly I tell you, if you have the faith as a grain of mustard seed, you will tell this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. But this kind doesn't go out except by prayer and fasting.'" So you notice he actually tells them there's ritual that goes into this. Yeah, you have to have faith, and you're lacking in that, but also you have to put in the ritual work of prayer and fasting. Jesus is teaching the disciples magic. We may not want to talk about that, but that's what's going on. So today we're going to talk about faith acts and the laws of resonance as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christo-pagan druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christo-pagan druid and sous chef to the dog day.
Today, we're going to be talking about acts of faith and the laws of resonance and what they have to do with each other and how they're really inextricably tied to one another. We're also going to talk about a very big misunderstanding about the parable of the mustard seed there, that you have to have faith as a mustard seed. Yeah, a lot of people get that wrong. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever the app is you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christo-pagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and you don't want to miss a thing because we got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. All right, let's just get into it. I want to start with the faith as a mustard seed because I think this is so misunderstood. First of all, it's faith as a mustard seed, not of one, not the size of, as a mustard seed. Mustard seeds are tiny. They're tiny. You ever had pickles? Those little balls floating in the pickles? That's a mustard seed. See them in soup sometimes. Yeah, teeny, tiny little seeds.
Depending on the grocery store you go to, might be able to find them in the spice section. It'd be a little jar of these tiny little balls, mustard seeds. You can actually just go see them there.
And they grow into these big old trees. They grow into these big things for these itty bitty little starter sources. Itty bitty little starter sources just grow prodigiously. And that is the faith as a mustard seed. It's about having that prodigious, growing, developing faith, that belief in things unseen and that hope in things not yet known, right? That extension of ourselves. That's faith as a mustard seed. That if you have that kind of faith and you say to the mountain, be moved from here to there. Now notice that part too. We're being very specific. From here to there. We're not just saying, be gone. No, go from here to there. Pick yourself up, go over there, put yourself back down. We're being specific. And then he brings up the ritual work that has to go in, the preparatory work. But this kind only leaves with prayer and fasting. Like you have to do that work on yourself and have that right relationship in yourself between you and the cosmos and to God, or it just doesn't work. All of that in this little bitty verse. That's what I think so many people get wrong about faith. When we're talking about magic, the book brings up this wonderful spectrum of magic where you have wishes, you have prayers, then you have spells. I would say that then you also have rituals, which is like the next step up.
That's spoilers for Friday's episode.
But you have this full spectrum here, right? The simplest is a wish. I think most people think that spell work is wish work. Wish is just, oh, I wish this would happen. And I think a lot of people think that's what faith is also. I wish this would happen. I wish this were true. I wish. What was it Grady used to say? If hopes and wishes were loaves and fishes, then no one would ever go hungry. That's not how that works.
That's something I thought was really neat in chapter 6 of Druidcraft, where they actually break it down. In any working of magic, you have the tool that you're using that goes into it. So that could be a prayer, ritual. These are all the tools of magic, faith acts, tools of magic. But you also have your additives that get added along with the tools. This is the energy, the various ingredients, the correspondences,
Let's be honest, the
um,
focuses, the foci.
the focuses, the foci. Yeah. Also, faith, like we were just talking about, faith is an additive. It's not the whole thing.
Faith is the root. I have a problem in that a lot of modern magic is rooted in this idea of will. And I
Mhm.
think will is very important. I am not here to tell you that you can be weak willed and practice magic. If you're weak willed and you practice magic, welcome to possession. Something's going to take over your life, or your life's going to fall apart. It's not going to be good. You have to develop a strong will to deal with the strong personalities you're going to be encountering. But without intention and faith, will does nothing. There's a problem with this weird state that our society has been in for such a long time. Joseph Campbell talks about the evolution of society in terms of the chakra system. That you start off in Muladhara in the first chakra in just survival mode, base survival, trying to make it through, trying to make it work. Then you have the base society growing into the tribal family societies that you get in the second chakra. And then you have the will to power societies, the nations, the empires, this urge to conquer that you get in the third chakra. And that this kind of meets the wall at the fourth chakra, because at the fourth chakra, we're entering the heart, we're entering the place of compassion, and everything has to change. It's the mirror chakra where all of those energies that had been aimed outwards start being aimed internally. And so the top three chakras are the bottom three chakras, but aimed inwardly. So you're now conquering your own demons and yourself. You're having that love affair with yourself, and you're into this kind of existential, spiritual survival and rootedness. It is this flipping point, right? And we have been stuck in this third chakra universe for quite some time. Not all of us, some of us have moved on, but culturally speaking, we're still stuck in this place of this will to power. And it harms us, especially in magic practice, because a will to power is inherently lazy. A will to power is that person on Twitter complaining about how the government should work and not understanding how it does work. That's the wisdom part. Having the intention of why it should work better or differently. That's the intention part. And having faith that you can actually build something that will actually achieve your goals and desires. That's the faith part. Without these parts, the wisdom, the intention, the faith, and the will working together, you're never going to get to any action. You're just going to either have random acts of vandalism or just a lot of word trash that you just spew out of anger, frustration, or whatever the emotion is at the time. And I feel like a lot of magic is just that. It's either people suddenly, oh no, I'm going to use all of my magical knowledge to do this one thing. I'm going to win the lottery. Okay. Good luck with that. Maybe you should have started with something smaller. Maybe you should try something like build that up. Like you get prodigious growth. Remember, we're growing up in our powers and our connections. Maybe you should have started with something smaller. But no, of course, we're not going to start with something smaller. Of course, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to start with the big things. Well, that's not how that works. Maybe we're just going to complain. I have been in so many prayer circles that are just like weird group therapy, but with Jesus. So everybody's sitting there and just like, oh Lord, let me tell you what my sister did and what my aunt did and what my cousin did and what my boyfriend did and what my brother-in-law did and what my sister-in-law did. Save me from them, Jesus. Okay. I mean, that's one way to do it, but group therapy prayer is not really effective. Let's do magic prayer. It's not really accomplishing the goals that you're wanting to accomplish, right? Might be mistaken, but I feel like that's not going to work. What we're really after here is learning how, as we've talked about before, this connectedness and understanding the laws of resonance and how they actually affect us. We've been hinting around at this idea of the laws of resonance in our many episodes we've done on correspondences, and in our well loved and not at all triggering episode about colonization and appropriation in magic. Don't know if the sarcasm was thick enough on my voice when I said that. Anywho,
Putting the trigger word.
oh, I'm trying. Resonance is understanding how these things work for you, how all of this actually functions. And to get here, we need to go to Paul. I know you're like, wait, we're going to Paul for magic advice. Actually, you can get a lot of good magic advice from Paul because Paul was a wizard. And if you don't understand that, read Paul again. Paul was a wizard. He was practicing a very specific form of magic. He was practicing Merkava mysticism and the magical practices that went along with it. Uses his theology and all of his writings. Anyway, side topic we've talked about a little bit in the past. We can definitely delve in deeper in the future if you want. Let us know in the comments. But in Romans chapter 14, Paul is talking about the dietary laws, but he's talking about the law in general. And he's contrasting this world of we just obey or we have faith. And in verse 22, Paul says, do you have faith? Have it to yourself before God. We'll stop there for a second. That's an interesting phrase. Have it to yourself before God. This isn't performative in front of a community, which, by the way, is something Jesus said a lot too. Your faith is between you and God, not between you and the other people around you and how fancy your hat is. I digress. Happy is he who doesn't judge himself and that which he approves. Oh, wait, let's think about that for a minute. What's that mean? The law tells you a whole bunch of things that you can and cannot do. Don't eat this, don't touch that, don't do this, don't do that. But what if it's a thing that you actually don't think is wrong? Maybe you have bills to pay and you can't figure out how to pay them, and you don't want to sell your youngest daughter into servitude, which, by the way, the law tells you to do. If you're in debt, the easiest way to get out of debt is sell your youngest daughter. If you don't have a youngest daughter, sell your youngest son. Yeah, no, maybe I'm not going to do that. So should I be judging myself for not obeying the law that tells me to sell my youngest child to get myself out of debt? No, because I approve of not selling my children into debt. So I'm not going to be upset about that. Okay, continuing. But he who doubts is condemned if he eats, because if it isn't of faith, because it isn't of faith, and whatever is not of faith is sin. Now, I picked this one very specifically. He does this actually several times throughout his letters. But whatever is not of faith is sin. Now, this is the actual measure that he's applying here. This is the law of resonance. Sin is missing the mark. We've talked about that before. We've done entire episodes on what is sin. Sin is missing the mark, either morally, ethically, or I set a goal for work and I didn't achieve it. Technically, sin. This is what sin is. It's missing the mark. Okay. Whatever is not of faith is sin. Oh, why? Because we are people of faith. How do? If we are of faith, then through the law of resonance, what we should be attracting to ourselves is faith. That's what the law of resonance means. If I'm putting faith out into the world, I should be getting faith back. This is actually a good way of seeing whether or not you are a faithful person. If everyone doubts every word you say, you may have a faith problem. You also may be a liar, but that's a faith problem too. That's a subset of a faith problem. But you'll notice if you're putting out this aura of, I have faith, I believe, people tend to also believe you and have faith in you. If you're putting out love, people will very often mirror it back to you. It's actually something we have a hard time not doing as humans because we have these things called mirror neurons in our brain that when we see an action, we want to give that same action back. We are literally hardwired to do this. Okay. And the universe to a certain extent is as well. So I don't think eating catfish is sin, because I don't believe eating catfish is sin. But by the way, it is. If you didn't know, catfish does not have scales. You can only eat fish that have scales. Catfish does not have scales. Eating catfish is sin according to the law. I do not count it as sin to myself because I do not follow the dietary laws for various reasons, including the fact that I agree with the Council of Jerusalem that we're not under the dietary restrictions anymore. But since I do not count it to myself as sin, it is not sin to me. Now, if you still think that we have to follow all of the dietary laws and you eat catfish, well, you've already classed it as sin in your mind. And so it is for you, and it will be counted such for you. If you condemn somebody for cheating on their wife while you're cheating on your husband, doesn't matter if you think it's all right for you to cheat. You have made the declaration that cheating is wrong. You see, this is the, I think, easiest way to see how resonance works. Okay, so if that's how resonance works, how does this work when it comes to magic? Well, if all of your prayers are, oh Lord, everyone is so mean to me, what are you actually putting out into the universe?
You're hoping everyone to be mean to you.
Everyone persecutes me and says nothing but bad things about me. What are you putting out into the universe?
You're wanting everyone to persecute you.
Yeah. You see, this is not a never complain. Therapists, confessors, spiritual guides, soul friends, best friends, all places to go to complain. When interacting in this deep way with the cosmos and trying to really harness the kind of, I always want to go like full Robin Williams and do the great cosmic powers thing every time I say this, but I'm trying to rein myself in. But with the great cosmic powers that we're talking about, we are basically setting up little magnets to draw in what we're wanting. If you're trying to do money magic and you spend 5 minutes talking about all the things that you don't have, guess what? You just did a lack spell. You just cursed yourself not to have anything.
That
And
happens
this,
often.
oh, that happens.
So many times somebody goes to do a money spell and ends up basically resonating out a lack, or they're not able to have anything nice. That's another one I see often. And that's, oh my gosh, you just basically put up a protective bubble to banish any wealth from coming in. Congratulations. That's a strange defensive work.
And you see this all the time. Remember, the great revelation is contained in the gospel is there is no cosmic judge. This is the great teaching of Jesus that everybody misses. Judge not lest you be judged, for you shall be judged by the same measure you apply to others.
I almost brought that up earlier. Yeah, because it is.
Why is there no judgment in Christ? Because Christ teaches us that there is no cosmic judge. There is not a divine being sitting on a throne somewhere longing to send people to hell. That's not the God that Jesus taught. It's actually not even the God that's found in Scripture. The God found in Scripture gets really mad at people for not doing the right thing. What is the right thing? Helping with the widows and orphans, helping the people that are less fortunate than them, helping refugees. Oh, wait.
Something else to keep in mind along with this is this faith isn't tied to any one particular world religion.
Oh, no.
The clearest example of that is when Jesus is walking along in the crowd and a lady heals herself by touching him. And at first, Jesus is actually shocked because he could feel the power flowing from him.
Yes.
And then clarifies is, oh yeah, it's your faith that made you whole.
Yeah.
There was no further. It wasn't like you have to convert or anything, or how dare you.
When the Roman centurion comes to him, he doesn't sit back and go, but do you give incense to the emperor? Tisk, tisk. That violates commandment number 2 and 3. Are you praying to other gods? Oh, tisk, tisk. He doesn't know anything about this guy. He's a member of the Roman military, so he's probably either a member of the cult of Mithras or maybe dedicated to Mars or one of the other gods. Does not ask any questions. There's no questions there. There's no push. And if anybody should basically be like, I am the one that you should be believing in, and I need you to sign this contract here before I can do a miracle for you, and to make sure that you are not going to go to the hell that I'm going to send you to if you don't love me, because I'm all loving. None of that's there. And we could have approached this from any other school. I could have come at this from the point of Hinduism. I could have come at this from the point of Buddhism, where I could find very similar stories and very similar ideas to all of this. I could have stayed just within Celtic folklore. I could have used Greco-Roman stories to put together the same analogy. Now, I'm coming at this from a Christo-pagan point of view, so of course I'm going to be using the Christian legendarium for this, right? The point remains the same. And this is where I think people get confused and call this the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is kind of BS. As we've talked about in the law of the returning tide, you don't necessarily always get back what you put out. But to use a very coarse example, if you're constantly peeing in the ocean, you can't be surprised when it washes pee back up on the shore, right? If whatever you're putting out, some of it's going to come back to you. That's the nature of tides. I remember when I was a kid and letters in a bottle were really big, right? So we went down to the river because I didn't live near an ocean at the time. And we wrote our letters, we put them in the bottles, we put the corks in, and we threw them out into the water. And we're like, oh, maybe someday somebody will find them. And before we left the beach, they had all washed up right where we were. All of them. There's all of our bottles. They came right back. And we were like, oh, and I had a moment. It was the whole thing. We were children. Sometimes it comes straight back. Sometimes it hits the current just right. And it goes out into the universe and goes to help somebody else. The law of attraction doesn't really work in that way. That's why when we're talking about this, the law of resonance, what you're saying is, this is what I'm putting out. You're trying to basically build that magnetic field where you're going to draw in what you're looking for. And if you're not careful in your faith, in your intentions, and in your actions, what you draw back towards you is not going to be what you want. You're going to be drawing back towards yourself things you really don't want. Like with the lack, like we were talking about in this episode yesterday, when we were like, hey, universe, we need money to move. And so Brian gets into a car wreck and totals the car because somebody rear ends him into another car, sandwiching our car, and the insurance payout was enough for us to move. Not what we meant. Yes, we were not only not specific, but we were desperate and needed emergency funds.
And at the time, we were focused on a lot of what we didn't have. And so, in a way, you could say it cost us more stuff just to get the money.
Yeah, because we then had to move, go to a new town where we didn't have a vehicle, build everything back up from scratch, basically. You have to be very careful what you're putting out into the world. And I want to give you these like real world examples from our lives, just to be like, one, we've done the wrong things. And that's why we're so convinced at what the right things are. And also realizing that what we think is the right thing isn't always the right thing. I think that's the biggest part of understanding the law of resonance. And when you're crafting your wishes, your prayers, your rituals, your spells, being very clear to hone in on what are you really looking for? Because some people are like, I want a boyfriend. That's great. But what they really mean is, I want somebody to marry, have children with, and raise a family. That's not necessarily a boyfriend. You're looking for a life partner who is looking for kids and the rest, right? You're looking for this whole other thing. But if you're putting out the intention into the universe, I want a boyfriend.
Yeah, you can load up tons of musical songs on boyfriends. Some of them, yeah, I think all of us would love to have, and some of them, a lot of us would wish we didn't.
And maybe you just want companionship and you're not looking for the other things. You need to be specific. That's why I always say, like, doing money spells, I don't feel are good for us, because I've learned in my life, the things that I want and need, sometimes the universe can do better by just bringing people into our lives. When we moved to California, we did a ritual before we left that when we arrived, we would have everything that we needed. When we got there, Brian's place of employment put us up at a Marriott for a while. We had to stay in a very nice hotel with a daily stipend for food. I had to live pretty well. We're able to find a nice apartment in a bad part of town, but a nice apartment with the good neighbor. And when we moved in, first thing that happened, knock on our door, our next door neighbor was like, hey, we just bought a whole new living room suite. The guys are coming to pick up our old one. We can call them and tell them not to get it if you need furniture. We noticed you didn't move any furniture in. Would you like to have our old living room suite? We explained to them that we didn't really have any money. We couldn't really pay for it. And they're like, we were going to throw it away. We could put it in your house or have it. Do you want it? We're not here for money. Oh, okay. So we ended up moving in the full living room suite that we didn't have to buy because our neighbors gave it to us. They brought over dinner for us that night and extra so that we would have food in the morning, because they're like, you need to unpack. You don't need to go to the grocery store. We got you covered. We ended up having everything we needed when we moved in. It was, oh, wait, what's the word? Magic. Now, that probably wouldn't have happened if we had said we need all the money we need to get everything that we need. That would have taken a lot more time, or would have relied on getting a bonus or some special to get that influx of money to get all that stuff. But we were very specific in that, may we have everything that we need to get our new life started. And we found a nice apartment that served us well the entire time we lived there. Right. I loved that apartment. We had good neighbors who took care of us, who helped us out when we needed help, that provided so much when we first got there, made us feel welcome and accepted. And it was just a cheerful goodbye. Like, they got us a whole bunch of audiobooks when they found out we were moving, so we'd have something to listen to in the moving van on the way out, just to make sure that we were taken care of, because the radio is not always reliable. Like, they were really good people. That's magic. And so that's why learning to understand this acting through faith, understanding how to invoke these resonances, and finding out what it is you're actually looking for and what you're actually asking and what you want to be asking for is really important as an initial first step in doing the magic. I hope this episode has helped you out some. I'm really worried that people are going to skip this one, because this seems to be the part of the book everyone skips in all the magic books, because they're like, I just want to get to the spellcraft. If you didn't skip, I don't know, put a magic wand emoji in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't notify us, so we won't know. Leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. Then take that comment, go over to creationspaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a comment there, and we'll see it and be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. You can also support us through the Cash App hashtag Creations Paths. Thank you so much to everybody who does that. You really mean the world to us. It really does help us keep the lights on, keep food on our table, and just keep up the momentum of everything that we're doing. Y'all are amazing. If you don't have any money right now, or if you're not sure that we're the kind of people you want to give your hard-earned treasure to, that's perfectly all right. But if anything that we have said has helped you out, or you think would help somebody else out, please share it with them. That helps us out more than you could possibly imagine. All right. And as we are heading out, who to pray to on this one? Who to pray to on this one? Let's say a prayer to one of the lost saints in having the right attention and understanding the proper place of this law of resonance. Oh, Saint Martha, whose sister is so much more famous than you are, because you dedicated yourself to that which was most important to you, hospitality and taking care of others, to the point where at times it blinded you, thinking that everybody should be putting in that kind of work with you. Help us to ever be mindful that as long as we are all in the presence of grace, we are doing the divine work, and that we are following the path that we should be following. Help us in all of our magic and in all that we do. Amen.
Amen.